Dude, I can't wait for the game tonight. As you can see, yellow jerseys all on the show today. So go out, get yours. Let's get behind Bafana. It's going to be exciting. Now, end of last year, Ben Getz and his team went out to establish a beautiful vegetable garden at Lwandle Primary School in Khayelitsha. And the aim of that garden is to support almost 300 kids with fresh vegetables. And I mean, Katlego and Ben actually went back there recently, and man, that garden exploded. Let's check it out.
In December, we saw Lwandle Primary School in Khayelitsha plant their first veggie garden. This is a very important project because the growth of as many as 1.5 million South African children younger than 6 has been stunted by malnutrition. The school hopes to feed 300 hungry learners from this garden. Urban Harvest empowered the local community with the know-how, and it's now 6 weeks later, and Katlego is most impressed.
Ben, my man, how you doing? Look at what you've done, man.
It's amazing.
It's absolutely incredible what you've done with this garden. It looks amazing. I can't even imagine how you must feel.
I'm feeling blown away. I mean, it's really incredible. After 6 weeks to see a garden looking like this, really incredible.
And so when you planted this little seed, were you expecting this kind of growth?
We've set up a good number of gardens already, but this is so far the best I've seen. Really impressed with the community support. The garden champions have really taken incredible care, and as you can see, total abundance all around.
Now, to a guy like me who doesn't really know much about gardening, I can look at it and I know it looks aesthetically pleasing. But how did you decide where to plant, what to plant?
Some of the key elements are companion planting, so obviously that's on the micro scale, what plants we plant together. I think one of the most important things is the perennial plants on the edge. Those are the ones that are going to be protecting the garden from the wind, creating a windbreak, also providing the garden with organic matter that's going to go into the compost, into the pit beds, into the earthworm farm. So in a sense, you want to make sure that the whole garden's getting enough sun, but there's also shelter.
I think I just saw a ladybird there, so obviously nature approves.
It's an absolutely brilliant sign. If there's ladybirds in the garden, it's an absolute indicator that the garden's organic. There's no pesticides, there's no toxicity. The ladybirds are happy to be here, and also they're beneficial predators. They will keep any aphid populations to a minimal. As far as I can tell, there's no pests in the garden. We've had 1 or 2 hungry caterpillars, that's all, but as you can see, everything's pretty much flawless.
I know an important part of the garden was those different components that you implemented to ensure that the garden remains organic. Let's take a look at those different components, shall we? Let's start off with that earthworm bath. What is this component of the garden and what's its function?
It will be an earthworm farm. The earthworm tea which comes out of the bath will go straight onto the seedlings first, and then if there's anything left, we'll then add that to the garden.
A healthy harvest needs fertile soil. Producing what gardeners call earthworm tea is a cost-effective way to achieve this.
So down there we have the earthworm tea, right?
Yep, this is the earthworm tea right here, quite a nice amount of it, and it's really concentrated. Even got a nice sweet smell to it. Really good, and this is part of what keeps the garden growing so healthy and strong.
Okay, well let's take a look at the guys that are actually making the earthworm tea inside the bath.
The earthworms, let's take a look. That's the red regulars. They're incredible, they're absolutely essential for the garden. They're going to process all the organic matter which is coming out of the garden and create that earthworm tea and the compost which is going to go back into the garden.
Great. Now remember, there were also these big holes that you dug out. Let's take a look at those, shall we?
You'll remember that when we first looked at these pit beds, they were totally empty.
Yeah.
Since then, we've started introducing a lot of organic matter, including horse manure, straw, and then vegetable scraps from the soup kitchen and some of the older leaves from the garden going in there. And as we discussed, the earthworms are also in here with other microorganisms. They're processing all this organic matter into compost and spreading it around the garden, so once again feeding back into the garden.
And so speaking of feeding, I know that when you started you estimated the garden would feed about 300 students. Is that still possible?
Absolutely, we've got a really bumper harvest. This will be feeding into an existing feeding scheme and helping to bolster that feeding scheme to bring much greater nutrition to 300 kids as we
Dude, that is really great. Congratulations, but I see the harvest is on. Let's help out, shall we? Cool.
Green beans, spinach and onions, the Garden Champion volunteers are doing a great job. The few hours a week they invest in this project are met with an abundant reward.
So, Mom Zozo, it's 2013. Tell me about how it feels to see this garden having grown so much in the past 6 weeks.
It feels very much good because we are harvesting now from 6 weeks only, and it's surprisingly that we didn't expect this much harvest at this point in time.
And what did the kids have to say?
The children are very excited. They are always asking when are we going to harvest.
And what have they learned from this?
They've learned that from nowhere you can be somewhere, because this was an open space, a very dry piece of land. But the urban harvest people, they came and they work on the land, and now they plant some trees, plants and veggies. Now we are harvesting today.
Well done, Lwandle Primary School. If you want to try this at your school or home, keep tuning into Expresso over the next few weeks as we share some practical tips.
This is absolutely amazing. You have eggplant, green beans, spinach, all fresh from this garden, and I think it's living proof of what we can all achieve as South Africa if we stand together. Like former President Nelson Mandela once said, it always seems impossible until it's done.